Welcome back to the Barrel Talk Podcast. We are back with another episode, part 2 of our official mock draft. We're doing something a little bit different this time. We are going to be including some trades in this episode. With this, it's kind of going to be like some trades. I want to keep it really realistic in how we're going to view the NBA draft. A lot of these trades that I did do, I feel like are going to be able to happen on draft night. Like I will say, I don't have a Kevin Durant trade in this just because I didn't think it fit. I didn't think there was a package that made sense at this point in the time with the NBA draft where contracts are lining up, because the main target is like the Houston Rockets. I've seen a lot of mocks of them trading to get Kevin Durant, but I just didn't really feel like anything made a whole lot of sense. I think if Kevin Durant gets traded, and reports are actually coming out now that he's going to be possibly dealt before the draft. So that's a very interesting topic for another day. But let's get into part 2. This is our second mock. We already have a first one up on the channel. Make sure you go check that out. That one is with no trades. This one is going to include trades in this video. But if you see me looking ahead, I have all my notes and everything over here, and I have some of the trades drawn out. I'll copy and paste it for all the visual you guys on YouTube who are looking at this on YouTube. If you're an audio listener on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, make sure to leave a like, grow the channel over there on the audio platform as well. But let's get right into it. Dallas, gotta keep it safe. Just go Cooper Flag. Don't try to get cute. You got bailed out by getting the number 1 overall pick and winning the lottery. Just get Cooper Flag and get out. A lot of this mock trades of them getting Giannis, Kevin Durant, just take Cooper Flag. Just take Cooper Flag, because he already fits what you want to go and has a direction of your team. Just go ahead and take Cooper Flag. Now, the San Antonio Spurs. This is where I have our first trade. I don't have Giannis Antetokounmpo going to the Spurs. If the Spurs are smart, the idea of Giannis and Wemby, I understand it. But with everything you're going to have to give up when you're looking at the landscape of the NBA right now currently. Look at the two teams in the finals. Good continuity, good team chemistry, young teams that love to get up and down, in depth. I think Giannis, yes, top 5 player in all basketball. But I'd rather trade this pick, which is what I'm going to do, add somebody that can still help us right now, while also being able to add some more young talent in this year's draft. Because there's going to get to a point where, with a lot of these younger teams, they're kind of ahead of the 8 ball, because OKC is not going to be able to keep everybody. Same with the Indiana Pacers. They're not going to be able to keep anybody. So they're constantly going to have to go into off seasons hitting in the draft. I think if they were to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo, it would really gut their roster. And a package for Giannis is either, like, they're probably giving up Stephon Castle. And 2. I know it's Giannis, but I don't know if I want to go that route. So I decided to go with a different direction. And I think one of the Utah Jazz or Brooklyn Nets should trade up with the San Antonio Spurs to take Dylan Harper, because both of these teams are in a position to where they could have some assets that the San Antonio Spurs are very interested in. And both of these franchises are in kind of this like weird, we want to be bad, but we have a lot of stuff, but not high-quality stuff on our roster. And I'm going to go with the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets trade just makes sense in my eyes. So this is going to be super, super simple. I'm just going to copy from my notes and then bring it on over. So this is going to be 8 and 19 for 2. And then down here, so the full trade is going to be Cam Johnson goes to the Spurs along with pick 8 and pick 19, and the Nets receive the 2nd overall pick in Harrison Barnes. Now, for video's sake, you could easily include another pick from the Nets in this deal down the line, but just keep it short, simple, sweet. We're going to go Cam Johnson 8 and 19 to the Spurs, and the Nets get number 2 in Harrison Barnes, and the Nets are going to select Dylan Harper with this trade. He gives them their cornerstone piece. You can figure out what you're doing with Cam Thomas. I think Dylan Harper and Cam Thomas could be a very electric scoring backcourt if you wanted to bring back Cam Thomas or do some sort of sign and trade. But with the Brooklyn Nets having so much draft capital in this year's draft, I wouldn't be mad at them sacrificing 8 and 19 and Cam Johnson to move up to get number 2. And if you're the Spurs, you're getting a plug-and-play guy in Cam Johnson who can help space the floor. You're getting 8 and 19, so you're still adding draft capital and draft picks from this year's draft. You're not sacrificing your depth for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So you're probably going into the next year with a lineup of De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle. You can go Cam Johnson at the 3, like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, like Jeremy Shohan. Then you got Wemby, and then you have still first-round draft capital in this year's draft. So, like, there's a lot of more avenues I think you have if you're the San Antonio Spurs if you make a trade like this and getting Cam Johnson. Let me know in the comments if this trade is a little bit far-fetched. But like I said, just to keep it short and sweet, you could obviously include another pick or two down the line from the Brooklyn Nets side of things. But going on to the Philadelphia 76ers, I think they're seeing kind of the writing on the wall. I've seen a lot of Philly should trade this pick. They should trade down. I understand that, right? I understand the ability to trade down when they have this sort of pick. But in my opinion, what are you trading for, right? Like the only guy I think that makes really, really good sense is somebody like Cam Johnson, right, for this roster. But when you're looking at the team, Tyrese Maxey's still young. Jared McCain's young. You just drafted him. Why not start to build a little bit of a foundation with your youth and what you already have? Kind of what Golden State did in a way, to where like they were able to bridge the gap between competing and still growing a young core. It's kind of coming back to bite them a little bit due to some bad trades, but I'm perfectly fine with them taking Ace Bailey. He fits what they want to do. 6'9", 6'10", can space the floor. He can learn next to Paul George, play in between Paul George and Embiid when needed. And you're drafting him, and like I feel like him, Jared McCain, and Tyrese Maxey could give you something to look forward to going down the line. Now, I do like VJ Edgecombe on this team as well, but I do think VJ Edgecombe, Quentin Grimes, Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, you might have a little bit too much there. Ace Bailey fits more of a need of a lengthy wing that can play the 3, play the 4, learn next to Paul George for the future, and gives you somebody that you can build around. Yes, he is a little bit more of a project play, but I think if you put him next to Joel Embiid, next to a Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, he would be able to find his way out there on the court for sure. So we're going to go Ace Bailey here at 3. Number 4, home run pick, VJ Edgecombe. Fits this team in Charlotte perfectly. I don't really need to explain it anymore. I did a Charlotte Hornets rebuild, pairing him up with LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and VJ Edgecombe. I love this. Would give them a more, if that's your trio going forward, and depending on what they do with Mark Williams, and you have a core of VJ Edgecombe, Brandon Miller, and LaMelo Ball, if you want to keep LaMelo Ball or move on from him as well, I think this is a home run pick for Charlotte. This would be one of the better picks Charlotte's made, other than Brandon Miller, in the past couple of years, especially better than last year with T.J. Salon. This is a very, very good fitting pick for them. Now, Utah, looking at this, I have them going Trey Johnson. Had Trey Johnson sliding a little bit in my mock, my first mock that I did right when the draft lottery ended, but Trey Johnson makes too much sense here. Like Utah and the Brooklyn Nets kind of have a lot of stuff, but they don't really have the most high-quality stuff. Trey Johnson gives them a high-quality NBA-ready scorer that can play next to Isaiah Collier and another guard if they wanted to go another guard in this year's draft. Stay away from front-court players, especially because you're probably not going to be able to move Lauri Markkanen. John Collins is probably accepting that player option unless you get him to accept that. Then you move him, but who wants John Collins for $26 million? It would have to be a desperate team. Walker Kessler, like Kyle Filipowski, like you don't take a front-court player. Take a guard. And you still have somebody like Cody Williams, who's a wing that you still haven't really developed, who didn't really have the greatest rookie year. So Trey Johnson, safe pick, somebody that can come in and be a really, really good scorer right away for you on this team. Washington. This is another interesting one. I have grown to think that they could go and address the center position, which they desperately need to add some more front court depth. But I think they desperately need a table-setting point guard. Because you're going to go into next year with somebody like Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, Jordan Poole. They don't really have a point guard, so a table-setting guard. I feel like Bub Carrington is more of a 2. A.J. Johnson is more of a tweener as well. We still got to see how he progresses and everything else like that. But let's go Kasparis Yakuchonis. Really good table setter. Has the size to be able to play the 1 or the 2, but he is probably going to go into this team and being the best playmaker already on this team. He's going to make life a lot easier on some guys like Jordan Poole, Alex Sarr, Balak Coulibaly, Bub Carrington. I think this is a really good pick here for Washington to go with a point guard. Now, New Orleans, this is where I have another trade, another interesting trade. They're in a different position. Joe Dumars stepping in. Looks like they're going to keep Zion Williamson because he was present at the draft lottery. Still looking to build around him. I know he has some stuff coming up about him as well, but I'm going to have them making a trade here. And I just think it makes sense for them to maybe trade down in this position because Concanipple, yes, he would be a fine pick, but I do think they can go and trade back and still add somebody of value. So I'm going to have them trading down with the Chicago Bulls in this draft. 7 for 12 And I'm going to get the details for this trade right here. So, this is the trade. The Pelicans are going to receive Nikola Vucevic, pick 11. The Bulls are going to receive Kelly Olynyk, Antonio Reeves, and pick number 7. So the Chicago Bulls are going to move up in this year's draft. And here's my mindset on why I would do some sort of move like this if you're the Pelicans, because you already have Yves Missi. Looking at the board, Mali Watch is kind of, I think he has a higher ceiling than Yves Missi, but I think Yves Missi right now is better coming off of his rookie year. And they kind of have similar play styles. If you add somebody like Nikola Vucevic, that gives you more versatility with his ability to space the floor at the 5 spot, play next to Zion Williamson in that front court. Like, who knows, that I've seen a lot of, they could go point Zion. At least Nikola Vucevic gives you somebody that can rebound the ball and give you some much needed spacing on this team to where you can actually go 5 out with Zion as your lead guard for once. So I think this would be a perfect trade, because if I'm the Pelicans, I'm not losing sleep over Concanipple, right? You already have Jordan Hawkins, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. Like, your wings is fine. You're probably going to bring back Bruce Brown. Like, your wings are fine. I'm not losing sleep over Kaman, because you already have Yves Missi. Derek Queen could be interesting, but I would rather have the floor spacing ability of a Vucevic, because we haven't yet seen that full aspect with this Pelicans team of a floor spacing 5. And Nikola Vucevic is on a 1-year deal. Don't work out, you're still going to be able to pick in this year's draft anyways. But with the Chicago Bulls, he's too talented. I think he fits too much of what they want to do. Makes too much sense. Derek Queen. I got the Chicago Bulls trading up for Derek Queen. They're going to be able to get off the Vucevic money. Derek Queen go in there with Matas Buzelis and be in that front court, very skilled, very fun stuff going on in there in Chicago with Derek Queen off the board going to Chicago. So now with the San Antonio Spurs, this is the San Antonio Spurs from the trade that we did for the number 2 pick. Now the San Antonio Spurs, I think, go and address the spot in their front court. Now you can play Mali Watch with Victor Wembanyama. He can back up Victor Wembanyama. He has a high ceiling as a rim protector. I think this is a very, very good pick for the San Antonio Spurs to kind of bolster up that front court. Now we have another trade. This is the big one. I think the Toronto Raptors are in a phenomenal position with how the landscape of the Eastern Conference is going into next year and the contracts they do have on their roster to make something happen. So here's what we're thinking. They are going to be trading with the Milwaukee Bucks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. In this trade, this is going to be a lot. I think this is a very good get for the Milwaukee Bucks to get, because you don't have your own draft capital. So you're going to need to get into a position to where you can still compete and stay afloat because you don't have your own draft capital. So in this trade, the Milwaukee Bucks now have the 9th pick. The Toronto Raptors are trading for Giannis Antetokounmpo and AJ Green. The Milwaukee Bucks are getting Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Grady Dick, the number 9th pick, a 2027 first, a 2029 first, and a 2031 first. So you're getting 4 first-round picks, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and Grady Dick for Giannis Antetokounmpo and AJ Green. I think this would be a good gift for Toronto, depending, like, you would go Ingram, Giannis, Scotty Barnes. You would still be able to add a pick in this year's draft in the second round if you're Toronto. But in this time that we're living in with the Eastern Conference, with the Boston Celtics banged up and they're going to be looking to sell, like, the Knicks are up and down. Like, the Pacers are really, at least right now, looking like the best team in the Eastern Conference. I know they're in the finals, but even going into next year, I can see a world where the Pacers are looked at as the best team in the out East. If the Toronto Raptors were able to make a big swing, kind of like they did for Kawhi Leonard, when the Eastern Conference is somewhat open, I can see them taking a swing and going and getting somebody like Giannis to pair with Scotty Barnes, and then they can just make the pieces fit where they fit. You still have Scotty Barnes, Giannis, and Brandon Ingram. That would be a great big 3 to have out East. And I feel like adding Giannis with some more younger talent that can get up and down is what he needs to be surrounded with. So with the Milwaukee Bucks and this pick right here, I see Jeremiah Fears here. I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to go that route. You still have Dame, right? You still have Dame. The Achilles, Dame is probably going to play for the Milwaukee Bucks. He's going to be on the court once he gets back healthy a year plus from now. So I don't see a world where they move that contract. But you brought in Emmanuel Quickley. I see Jeremiah Fears here. But they're going to need some definite small forward, power forward help. I'm fine with them going with another great defender to surround Emmanuel Quickley, Grady Dick, RJ Barrett with, and Kyle Murray Boyles. Might not have the most crazy ceiling, but he's somebody that can help you right now. Like I said, the Milwaukee Bucks don't have their own draft capital at this current moment, so they could use somebody like Kyle Murray Boyles to be just a great connecting piece and to try to not really compete, but stay afloat. Make sure you're not giving the Pelicans top 3 to 5 picks for your draft capital. Now, Houston Rockets, this is where I see a lot of the Kevin Durant trades. Nothing really made sense at this point in time. It's so hard to trade with the Phoenix Suns and kind of mock a Kevin Durant trade because of all the contracts you have to do, like a Micic, decline his contract. You have to do something with Cody Martin's contract. Didn't really want to do all that for this video. Wanted to keep it simple because I think the Rockets could just go Ace and Newell here. You have Steven Adams being a free agent. You could use somebody with some athleticism, somebody that can play and fit perfectly running up and down the court. With this young Houston Rockets team, I'm going to go Asa Newell. He has really top 5 talent, in my opinion, and this is a great fit. I like Kyle Murray Boyles here to Houston as well, but him going the pick before to Milwaukee, I feel like Asa Newell has a kind of secondary pick for them. Portland. Now going on to Portland, Knippel. I think this is where his slide ends. Somebody that can be a perfect connecting piece on a team where you have Shaedon Sharpe who needs the ball. You still have Anthony Simons. You have Scoot Henderson. He can be that perfect connecting 3-and-D piece on the wing that can really space the floor. Something I think they desperately need to add in this year's draft and just this offseason in general. Now going on to the New Orleans Pelicans, they traded down to number 12 in the trade. Igor Demon, I really like this fit, really like this pick for them because we got, I think, DeJounte Murray is going to be missing a good chunk of the start of next year. CJ McCollum is also, he could possibly be getting moved this offseason. You still have Jose Alvarado, but Igor Demon gives you another big that can just play and run the floor with this young Pelicans team. I think they could use a guard that could really push the pace and operate the pick and roll. Next to we already have, I think we have Vucevic on this team now. We have Zion still. Like, Igor Demon could be the perfect placeholder for before DeJounte Murray comes back in. Even he can give you some sort of glimpse of maybe we can wash our hands with the DeJounte situation because we love what Igor Demon is giving us. It could be a little bit of a reach here at 12, but I do think this is a really good fit for him because he's surrounded by guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion, even a CJ McCollum if they end up keeping him. So I think this is a really good trade for the Pelicans to trade down and to select Igor Demon. Atlanta on the board. They're going into this big 3-and-D, bunch of defense, bunch of shooting, spacing around Trae Young. They've really, I feel like, tapped into what kind of roster they want to build around Trae Young going forward. So I'm going to go with somebody who doesn't have the flashiest stats, but fits what they want to do. I'm going to go Carter Bryant right here. Somebody who has good form, can space, is just a perfect 3-and-D rotational piece that can fit in the system and can give them a little bit of everything. He's just more, I feel like you have kind of he's more of like an Aaron Gordon if you want to kind of compare. Reminds me a little bit of somebody like Aaron Gordon, who at his peak maybe can space and be one of the better defenders on the interior for this team. And I think Carter Bryant, yes, the numbers aren't flashy, but I think his fit and the way he plays fits what the Atlanta Hawks want to do perfectly. Pairing you up with somebody like Trae Young, as great of a playmaker he is, Carter Bryant's going to get a lot of easy looks if he goes to a place like Atlanta. Now, we have the 14th overall pick. We already went Kamali Watch for San Antonio to pair up in that front court. Now we are going to get somebody that can also space, pairing him up, giving them some more shooting off that bench, and Liam McNeely. I know it was a tough end to the year going into the tournament for Liam McNeely shooting the basketball, but the form is there. There's nothing wrong with the shot. I think it was just got into a slump at the end of the year kind of deal. But him going to the Spurs at 14 gives them another floor spacing guy off that bench that is going to make the right play and not be maybe the best defender right away, but you're pairing him up with somebody like Vic, Stephon Castle, like guys like that. I feel like you're going to help you pairing him up with Mally Watch in this draft. So like I feel like there's going to be a really, really good pick to add some spacing for the Spurs. And now the Spurs have a ton of depth and a very versatile team that can match up with anybody out west with some of these draft picks and the trades that I've done in this video. Now going on to the OKC Thunder, there's just something I like about Danny Wolf here because who knows how much longer they're going to be able to keep Isaiah Hartenstein in the future because they're going to have to pay J-Dub, they're going to have to pay Chet. Danny Wolf is somebody that may not have the defensive ability of a Hartenstein, but he has the ability to be a good passer and to play make and to be kind of a little bit of a hub on this OKC team that I feel like doesn't really have too much creativity on offense outside of somebody like SGA or J-Dub creating for themselves. So I like Danny Wolf here for kind of a thinking ahead Isaiah Hartenstein replacement. Jonathan Isaac, the Orlando Magic, I was looking at Jonathan Isaac's name, but the Orlando Magic up here, I think they go Jeremiah Fears here. I think this is just a really good fit. I think Jeremiah Fears is interesting because I do worry about the defense, but all the teams that him sliding past don't really make a whole lot of sense. But I think he makes sense because Orlando desperately needs somebody that can score, somebody that can create. And he's also somebody that is still a little bit raw going into the NBA, though I think he is going to struggle with defensively. But pairing him up on a great Orlando Magic defensive team, pairing him up with Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, I feel like they could hide some of those defensive deficiencies, and it could be a great fit. I think Orlando's the best fit for Jeremiah Fears with what they need and what he needs to be surrounded with to succeed. So now going on to the Minnesota Timberwolves, love Rasheer Fleming right here, somebody who has the ability to possibly be somebody that can space the floor at the 5 spot, gives them a little bit more versatility. Who knows what's going to happen with Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They could just continue to add young talent to that bench with Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr. Rasheer Fleming would be a great pick for the Minnesota Timberwolves here at 17. Pick number 18, going over to my notes, I have the Washington Wizards. They took Spurs, gives them a table-setting guard. I have them taking a little bit more of an upside pick in their front court to add some depth over there. I am going to have them go all the way down here. John Benninger. He is somebody that I can play next to Alex Starr. I feel like Alex Starr's best ability and the way he's going to be able to really break through and break out is at that 5 spot once he puts on a little bit more size. But John Benninger is somebody that I feel like can give them a high-quality upside guy in Washington because you see Thomas Sorber here, but I think the upside and who knows how healthy Thomas Sorber is going to be going into next year. But I think Behringer gives them a little bit more upside pick right there. Now going on to 19, San Antonio Spurs on the clock. I have them going Noah Essengay, somebody that is just going to add some more depth. He's more of a project play with everything that they've added. They're perfectly fine taking somebody like Noah Essengay more of the project route. But if at his peak, he can be a really good slasher and a really good defender next to Victor Wembanyama. So looking at that, I'm thinking that's a really good pick for them. They can go project guy. That's probably not going to be needed to play right at next year. Miami Heat, they could go a couple different ways. Miami Heat's so good at finding the diamonds in the rough at this point in the draft in kind of that mid-teens, early 20s. I have them going Nick Clifford because from the lookings of rumors that is going on about the Miami Heat, they could be looking to make some sort of move. It seems like Jaime Jaquez could be dealt. Nikola Jovic could be dealt. Getting somebody like Nick Clifford, somebody who can just come, plug-and-play guy, can fit right away in Miami, gives them a backup to Andrew Wiggins, can play the 2, play the 3. They just need somebody that can just come in and fill a void because I don't know the route that they're going in. They could go a point guard, Nolan Traore, but I think they'll be fine. I think they can go and address that point guard somewhere in free agency. And I love Davion Mitchell. I hope they bring him back. You bring him back, and I think they're adding and Nick Clifford would be a really good get for the Miami Heat. Utah Jazz at 21. They could go more of a project play here. Trey Johnson was their first pick at 5. I think that was a home run pick for them. Who knows what they have? Like I said, they're like the Brooklyn Nets. They have a lot, but they don't really have a lot at the same time. I think they can go a little bit more project, maybe a little bit higher upside in Hugo Gonzalez, somebody who can just play next to Cody Williams, because it's so hard to see what is exactly the Utah Jazz young core. But when they're getting Trey Johnson at 5, depending on what they do this offseason, I think Hugo Gonzalez can be a nice high upside pick that you might not need to be really, really good right away because the Utah Jazz are still in a rebuild. Now, Atlanta back on the clock at 22. This is where I have another trade. I really, really like this trade because the Atlanta Hawks, they could be seeing the writing on the wall as well. In the Eastern Conference, kind of like what I said about Toronto, to make a move, because if you're Atlanta, you make the right moves this offseason, you can compete to get out of the Eastern Conference with the Boston Celtics kind of taking a gap year because of the Jason Tatum injury. The Boston Celtics can still be very competitive because they have a really good roster, but I think it's in their best interest to shed cap and be bad next year to be better in the future. When you get Jason Tatum back, the Atlanta Hawks could see an opening like I talked about with the Toronto Raptors earlier on, and they're going to be making a trade with the Boston Celtics. And they are going to be getting, in this trade, to shed cap, the Hawks are going to get Kristaps Porzingis. The Boston Celtics are going to get Terrence Mann, who is on a smaller contract that they could use to flip to get something later on down the line for the next couple of years. And he's somebody that can just fill a void in that rotation next year. And Georges Niang, who's on an expiring. And the Hawks are going to get Kristaps Porzingis, and the Boston Celtics are also going to be getting Pt.2 in this year's draft. So the Boston Celtics are looking to add some more talent throughout the draft. They get off the Kristaps Porzingis contract. For the Atlanta Hawks, it's just a one-year contract. I know Kristaps hasn't been the most healthiest over the years, but with what you have, you can add a floor spacing 5 to kind of replace Clint Capella. You still have Double O. You'll have Ricochet, Jalen Johnson, Carter Bryant, Trey Young. Like, you'll have a lot to work with on this roster. And giving up the 22nd overall pick for Kristaps Porzingis, I don't think is a bad deal whatsoever, especially because he's on a one-year deal. And if you're the Boston Celtics, you're going to need to fill the void at the 5 spot. Kristaps Porzingis is out the door. Al Horford could retire. We don't know about him yet. Like, you have a Luke Cornett they're probably not going to be able to bring back, so you're going to have a void at that 5 spot. I love Thomas Sorber here, somebody who can just fill that void, a smart center who knows like how. I know he had injury. I know he had surgery. Don't know how healthy he's going to be going into next year, but I think he could be a great add for this Boston Celtics team going forward. Indiana, they're in another interesting spot to where they're in the NBA Finals. Don't want to make any trades with them, but there's nothing wrong with just adding a nice, smart player that could fit what they want to do. I have them going Chase Richardson. Who knows how long they're gonna be able to have the TJ McConnell contract on the books. Miles Turner is gonna be due for an extension. They could go front court player, but there's nobody here I really like for them in the front court. And I think Chase Richardson can give them a nice piece off that bench because they're probably gonna look to move somebody like Benedict Mathurin this offseason. So Chase Richardson, I feel like could be a really, really good get for them in this draft, and his fall in this year's draft ends there. OKC, this is where I had another smaller trade. Couple smaller trades towards the back half of this draft. But I think OKC, when you're looking at them, they don't really need to add. You have Danny Wolf. You had Nikola Topic of last year. You still have a ton of depth on this team. Like, I think they could be fine trading this pick for just future draft capital down the line. And here's the trade I have for them. They're more so thinking in this trade of a team that doesn't have a first-round draft pick that could sacrifice something in the future for something now. I think Golden State's the perfect team for that. They're going to be trading number 24, and the Thunder are going to get a 2028 first-round pick unprotected. Golden State's kind of in this desperate situation to where I think they're going to go into this offseason with the mindset, we need to do everything we can to try to surround this team with enough to get over the hump. Because in my opinion, if they had Steph Curry healthy, I think they would have went to the conference finals this year. So looking at that, the Warriors are going to be making a trade to get in the first round, in the back half of the first round, because they traded their first round pick to Miami at the Jimmy Butler trade, and they're going to get Will Riley. Will Riley is somebody I think screams Golden State, because he is like, I don't think the Warriors are going to be able to get somebody like Cam Johnson because of Brooklyn, and also I had Cam Johnson getting traded earlier on in this draft video, but he is somebody that they could trade into the first round and get somebody who can be a floor spacing wing, somebody who can move very, very well without the ball and play very, very well in this Golden State offense. Even has a rookie because he has the size. He might not be the biggest player, but his off-ball movement and his ability to space, I think, will be perfect for what Golden State does offensively. Now going on to the Orlando Magic, they have another pick. I think this is a very, very good pick for them to take a 5-man. Because you have Mo Wagner. His contract is over. He ended up getting hurt at the start of the year. Who knows what they're going to do with Wendell Carter. That contract isn't really aging the best. Why not add Maxime, who can be a floor spacing big on this team, a team that needs shooting, that needs spacing. You're adding Jeremiah Fears and Maxine in this year's draft. I think it would be a home run pick for the Orlando Magic. Now getting on to the Brooklyn Nets. So they drafted Dylan Harper at 2. Kamal Maliwatch is going to the San Antonio Spurs in the trade that we did earlier. Brooklyn Nets at 26. I have them going with Abdul Thiero, somebody that can just be a nice wing to replenish some of that depth on this team. He might not have the biggest upside, but I think the Brooklyn Nets could go into a position to where they could be pretty solid next year because there is some talent on this team. They just need to kind of put it all together. And now getting somebody like Dylan Harper to lead this team, I think is going to be putting them in a whole different direction. Now, I do have them trading their 27th overall pick because they have back-to-back. They already have a couple of young guys. Like, what are they going to do? They have a ton of cap space to use. Like, what are they going to do with Nick Claxton? Day'Ron Sharp, are they going to bring him back? What are they going to do with Cam Thomas? So they have a lot to discuss on this team. I don't think they need to bring in 4 rookies in this year's draft. So I have them making a smaller trade. Like I said, this is, in my mind, thinking of a team that could jump into the first round that doesn't already have a draft pick. So looking at this, I have them trading with the Sacramento Kings, a team that could desperately use a pick in this year's first round. So the Nets are going to be getting a 2028 first round pick unprotected from the Kings. The Kings are going to get the 27th overall pick in this year's draft, and they are going to be selecting their point guard because they desperately need one, and Nolan Traore. I think Devin Carter is more of kind of like Keon Ellis, more off ball in the league, kind of like a Jalen Suggs. He fits better at the 2, being a really good defender at the 2 spot, being able to space a little bit, not more of a traditional point guard, which is what Sacramento really, really needs right now. I have them going Nolan Traore for their point guard needs and their point guard void. Now, with the Atlanta Hawks, this is actually the Boston Celtics pick. I didn't mean to swap this pick. So this is still Boston's pick. So Boston ended up with that trade having 22, and they took Thomas Sorber. Hawks got Kristaps Porzingis. They are going to be able to keep their 28th overall pick, and they're going to be taking Cedric Howard, somebody who can be a great fitting piece for when the Boston Celtics get Jason Tatum back and they're ready to still go and compete for championships again. He can be a really good rotational piece for them. Now with the Phoenix Suns, they're in an interesting spot because I think they can go a number of different ways. They can really go best player available, but depending on what they get in the Kevin Durant trade, I think they desperately need to go guard here. They need a real point guard on this team, somebody that can fit next to Devin Booker, because they're probably not going to be able to retain Tyus Jones. He's probably going to get paid by a team. Ben Seraph is a good playmaking guard with the size to be able to play the 1 or the 2 and really play off of Devin Booker. He might not be the best shooter coming into the league, but I do think his playmaking ability next to somebody like Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, whatever they do get for Kevin Durant in a trade, I think Ben Seraph could be a really good fit, even if he is coming off the bench next year. Now with the Clippers really just need to go best player available here. I would love for them to add maybe a center, but they could easily do that in free agency, especially because I don't really see anybody like Yaxo went back to school, JC Toppin's back in school, like Janai Broom, but I feel like they could just address that need in free agency. But the pick for me, let me know in the comments what you guys think. It's either I have Walter Clayton. I have them selecting Walter Clayton in this draft, but I really like Cam Jones. And I think both of these guys deserve to go into the first round. It's tough because Ben Seraph, Walter Clayton, and Cam Jones are all guards that I think could go into that later end of the first round. But I like Ben Seraph's playmaking ability more with the Suns, and I think Walter Clayton is more of a score first, and I think Phoenix needs more of a playmaking first guy. But I think Walter Clayton, his shooting ability is going to be what gets him into the first round, and his run in the tournament I think was too valuable and too eye-opening. Has an older guard, somebody that can step in right away and play for the Clippers. Cam Jones, both of these guys I can see going to the Clippers. But I'm going to go Walter Clayton for the sake of this mock. For visual guys on YouTube, this is what we're doing. I have all the trades in the notes. I will have graphics up as well once this video is posted. But for our audio listeners, I'm going to run through the first round of this draft. Cooper Flag, number 1 to Dallas. Dylan Harper to the Brooklyn Nets in a trade with the San Antonio Spurs. Ace Bailey to the 76ers. VJ Edgecombe to the Charlotte Hornets. Trey Johnson to the Utah Jazz. Kasparis Yakuchonis to the Washington Wizards. Derek Queen to the Chicago Bulls. Kamal Malley Watch to the San Antonio Spurs via trade. At number 9, we have Kyle Murray Boyles to the Milwaukee Bucks in the Antetokounmpo trade with Toronto Raptors. Essa Newell goes to the Houston Rockets at 10. Then we go Concanibal to the Blazers, Igor Demon to the Pelicans, Carter Bryant to the Hawks, Liam McNeely to the Spurs, Danny Wolf to the Thunder, Jeremiah Fears to the Magic, Rasheer Fleming to the Minnesota Timberwolves, Joan Banger to the Washington Wizards, Noah Essengate to the Spurs at 19, Nick Clifford at 20 to the Miami Heat, Hugo Gonzalez, 21 to the Utah Jazz, Thomas Sorber, 22 to the Boston Celtics via trade, Jace Richardson to the Indiana Pacers at 23. Will Riley to the Golden State Warriors via trade with the Thunder. Maxine going to the Orlando Magic at 25. Abdul Thiero at 26 to the Brooklyn Nets. Nolan Traore to the Sacramento Kings via trade. Cedric Howard to the Boston Celtics at 28. Ben Seraph to the Phoenix Suns at number 29. And Walter Clayton Jr. at 30 to the LA Clippers. But this is going to wrap up my official mock draft part 2 with trades included. I might do another one with trades, just getting absolutely crazy, just to have a little bit of fun with it. But I'll probably have at least 2 more mock drafts, just regular ones with no trades, really taking a time and tapping into a lot of what the rumors we are hearing. We're hearing more and more and more rumors about how this draft process could play out. We've already seen Shams come out and say this could be one of the craziest off seasons we've ever seen, from trades to drafts. Like, a lot of things could happen on draft night. I think it's going to be very fun offseason going into the NBA offseason, but we got the finals. Then we're going to be hopping in right into the offseason, probably the best time, in my opinion, other than the regular season, of course, but there's a lot of stuff. The offseason for the NBA is very entertaining. But this is going to wrap up my mock part 2 with trades included. Let me know in the comments what you guys think I did right, what I did wrong. More trades in the comments. We could just have a whole discussion down there. But thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Barrel Talk Podcast. Hope to see you tune in to future episodes.